Hello, friend. Good morning. Okay, I wanted to hop on here and I wanted to talk about one mistake that a lot of us make. And this kind of came from a book I'm reading. It's called Be Your Future Self Now, and I am loving it. I was so excited to dive into this book because this is the focus in my membership this year is becoming your future self now. And as I was reading that, it was so interesting to hear him say that a lot of the things that we do as people is we focus on solving short-term problems or we're living like in our current circumstances. And one mistake that a lot of us make is not connecting with our highest self, with our future self. And this is something that I do a lot through journaling practice, through breath work, is connecting with that highest self, with that future self, but not in the sense of immediate gratification. It's like, what does her life look like 5 years from now? Because a lot of times we're just trying to like survive our days, right? We're trying to survive our days. But what decisions can you make today that is going to serve you 5 years in the future? And so if you're thinking about your goals, this is like dreaming bigger, allowing yourself to dream bigger. What decisions can you make today that are going to serve that bigger goal 5 years from now, 1 year from now, 2 years from now? And that's where we need to start coming from if we are wanting to shift our lives. And so when you are setting a goal, let's not set a goal 6 months from now. Like we have those too, because we have all these mini goals, we have all these decisions we make on a day to day basis. But what is going to matter most in the long run? And something like, I'll give you a little example, at least for in my business today, something that hit me today is yes, choosing to show up live right here, right now is a little goal. But when I choose to show up live for 5 years and I go show up live, let's just say at least 5 or 6 days a week, what is going to be the ripple effect of that 5 years from now? Another way that I love to connect with my highest self, I've talked about this a ton. I didn't even know this was like, I really didn't even know there was a lot of science behind it until he shared it. But writing a letter from 1 year in the future you. So it's not necessarily about connecting with future you in this present moment. It's about allowing future you to come to you. And what is future you want you to know? I do this a lot in my breath work when I do visualization and I walk you through that. But I want you to really think about that. I want you to think about what kind of life is future you living? What kind of feelings is future you feeling in her life? What decisions can you make right now through the lens, through the perspective of future you? Like, if you are not happy in your life, stop being a victim to your circumstance and let's view that how future you would view that. So, if future you is like, oh my gosh, I'm living the best life, I have a beautiful home, you moved, like the decision that we're making to move right now is so scary. My kids are in high school, like my daughter's going to be a freshman next year. I have one that's going to be a senior, and we are moving. And they're going to be in a different school. But where will that put our family? Where will that put me and my husband and the growth of our businesses and the life that we desire to live and create for our family in 2 years, in 5 years from now? And that's where the decision is coming from. It is coming from that like 5 year in the future us. What is going to serve our lives 5 years in the future? And what decisions do we need to make today to serve that version of us? And a lot of times, if you really think about it, let's talk about food storage. How often is it that we have food for 6 months from now? Not very often, right? But how often do you have food for the day, for the week, right? For the next 2 weeks. And so it's the same thing. But how hard is it for us to tuck away the money for retirement that's not going to happen for 30 more years? It's a really hard decision. And so it's like we've got to come at our lives from what do we want in the future? How do we want it to feel? And then allow that future version of us to talk to ourselves now. So we have to stop making the mistake of being a victim to our circumstances. If you created your current reality, if you created where you are at right now, Don't continue to make the mistake of being a victim to that. Don't continue to make a mistake of thinking that you cannot shift that. What could your life look like in 1 year from now? Like, I will tell you, I lived as a victim for a very long time, especially at the beginning of our marriage. I got pregnant at 18. I was told that it was now my job and my duty to take care of everybody else. Forget the dreams you had. Somebody really close to me said that to me. Forget the dream life you had. Forget all the dreams you had. Those now get tucked up on a shelf, and you have a baby to take care of. You have a husband to take care of. We have to call BS on society's standards. And if you are the first to step into shifting your life, if you're the first in your family, it feels really scary. But if life isn't feeling good to you right now, do not make the mistake of being a victim to it. Do not make the mistake of not thinking and coming from the perspective of your future self. Because when we make our decisions today based on short-term gain and trying to just like overcome and survive our days, that doesn't feel good. And that's not how life was meant to be lived. And I think I learned this like when my dad got hit by a car back in 2022. Your life can change at any moment. And if you were on your deathbed today, this is something that popped into my head. It's kind of morbid, but if you were on your deathbed today, how would you want to be living your life? What would you regret? Like, I had like, oh my gosh, I haven't done enough yet. I haven't like completed the things that I want to do yet. And I'm working toward them. But what regrets would you have if you were literally on your deathbed today? What would you lie there saying, I wish I would have done this? And then I want you to just start asking yourself, why am I not doing this? Why haven't I done this? And maybe it's fear, right? And maybe it's fear like around us moving, right? We were really scared because we're taking a good chunk of like what we make off the house, and that's paying for rent for a whole year. We're just prepaying our rent. We're taking the pressure off our businesses and we're just going for it. And I had this fear come up of, oh my gosh, what if in 1 year from now, we can't afford the lifestyle that we have created for ourselves throughout this year? But it's like, we can't live in a fear of a future that hasn't even happened yet. You get to create your reality in your mind now. And you get to continue to focus and feel into future you, what life she's living, how it feels, how good it is. And so, my challenge for you this week, I think I've handed out this challenge quite a few times, but I want you to write a letter to you from 1 year in the future you every day. 1 year in the future, you writes a letter, and I want her to tell you how good life is, the decisions that she made, the shit she had to let go of to get where she is. Because a lot of what holds us back is fear. We fall victim to our circumstances, and we are so caught up in surviving our day to day that we cannot see the bigger picture that could be possible for us. We want to get out of that cycle. We want to broaden our horizons, right? It's like when you wear a hat and you hit your head on branches as you're trying to hike or whatever, and then you just take the freaking hat off because you're sick of hitting your head, and suddenly you can see so much more. It's the same thing here. We want to be able to see that big perspective, because if you created the life you're living right now, well, if you really set your mind to it, what kind of life could you create for yourself in the future? Isn't that incredible? And so that is your challenge. And if you want to take it one step further, and I highly recommend you do this, when you write that letter from 1 year in the future you, and you get yourself, when you get in that place where your energy feels good and you're super excited and you're just like, it's flowing and you just feel like it's possible, record a voice memo. Read that letter to yourself in a voice memo. And this is something that you listen to every single day. Whenever you're driving somewhere, it only needs to be like 1 to 5 minutes long. And you listen to it every single day, because there is so much power for your subconscious mind in listening to your own voice. And when we can really create a strong vision in our minds of the future that we desire to create and hold on to, that is when we can bring it into fruition. That is when we bring it into our reality. Because our current brain in our circumstances wants familiarity, it wants safety, it's built for survival, it's helping us survive our days. So let's shift that. Let's start to come at our lives from a perspective of future you and see what shifts. I want you to see what shifts. I want you to know that the subconscious mind will not leave a question unanswered. It might take it a minute for you to like find the answers, for the universe, God, source to deliver you an answer, whatever you believe in. But when you sit with a question for long enough, you're going to start to get inspired ideas. You're going to start to get answers to those questions. Don't dwell in the how. The universe always has a better plan than we do. We might think, oh, it has to happen this way, and I have to like quit my job, and I have to start this, and I have to be an entrepreneur. No, like, don't go there. Just trust that that future life you desire to live is already yours. It is already yours. And now you just get to say, I am open to receiving my next right step, my next best step toward my future. And even when it feels like it's not working out, you keep holding on to that belief. We don't know where we're moving to yet, and that's kind of terrifying and kind of exhilarating all in one. But in the back of my mind, I have this belief that there is this house out there waiting for us. And when our home sells, we're going to know where we need to go. It's just going to fall into place, but the timing needs to be right. That's why our house hasn't sold yet. And so I want you to think about that too. When you're creating your future self and you're creating your future life, don't make the mistake of coming back to your current circumstances and giving your power away to it. Hold on to that future. You can create it. Let's stop dwelling in fear of a future that hasn't even happened and instead create the future that you desire to live in your life so that you bring it into your reality and you start to make decisions as the future you would make decisions, even in your current circumstances. So, do your challenge, write a letter from when you're in the future you to you, talking about how life feels, how good it is, really create that vision. And if you want to take it one step further, create that voice memo in your own voice, reading that letter to you, feeling the excitement of what your future life feels like, and then listening to it every single day. Thank you so much for being here. That's all I got. I will talk to you next time.